evening. Hello and welcome. You're with the news today. Your primetime destination news. Newsmakers, talking points. Our big talking point tonight. The United States has hired Donald Trump, fired Kamala Harris. What awaits America under Trump 2.0? What does Trump 2.0 mean for India and the world? Special voices from across the world will join us on the news today.
Elected your 47th president and your 45th president. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body. Together we can truly make America great again. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Our big story today. Donald Trump did what no US president has done in over a century. Came back to be re-elected after losing as an incumbent president 4 years ago. The Republican leader scored a comprehensive victory over Democrat candidate and Vice President Kamala Harris, eventually winning all the 7 swing states that were seen as critical to his entire path to presidency. Those were the final numbers. 270, the midway point. Trump got 276. Harris got 223. Trump thereby getting a comprehensive victory. The incumbent new US president called the result a mandate to make America great again. Here is how the election night unfolded rather dramatically in the United States.
Thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends in this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country and maybe beyond.
In a speech that lasted nearly half an hour, Trump urged the country to put the past behind, described the result as a mandate to make America great again, and made no mention of his rival, Kamala Harris. He referred to the 2 failed assassination bids during the campaign and described the verdict as God's will.
God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together. We're going to fulfill that mission.
How Trump scripted history is a study in itself. What stood out was the gender gap, which worked to his favor instead of Harris. The Associated Press exit poll shows among those aged below 44, who add to 39% of the electorate, 43% women voted for Trump and 55% for Harris. In this age category, 52% men voted for Trump and 46% men voted for Harris. Among those aged above 44, who add to 59% of the voters, 47% women voted for Trump and 51% for Harris, a gap of just 4 points. In the same category, 56% men picked Trump and 42% Harris, a big lead of 14 points. Trump's focus on illegal immigration and inflation had clearly worked, while Harris's focus on abortion rights and individual freedoms did not yield the expected results. In the end, the election wasn't the dead heat every pollster had predicted, but an easy stroll in the park for Trump. In the end, America was not divided like never before, but clearly leaning towards the right, with no room for any doubt whatsoever. Given that Donald Trump considers his unpredictability to be his greatest strength, his election as the President of the United States is set to shake up the world order. With Geeta Mohan in Florida, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's go straight across to our correspondents who are at the key points. Geeta Mohan is in Florida, where, remember, Trump delivered his speech, his victory speech. And also joining me is Rohit Sharma from Washington, D.C. But first, you, Geeta, you're in Florida. It's, early morning now in Florida after the big night. Where is Donald Trump, and what's the mood there in Florida particularly, which Trump won rather comprehensively?
Well, it's quite upbeat. Yes, it is still morning. Shops haven't opened up. Restaurants are still shut. So we're yet to speak to a lot of people, but you can see some of them who've come out with their family members. It is a working day, Rajdeep, but yet we're seeing a lot of people who've maybe taken it off because last night, after the party got over, after Trump spoke, people only started leaving around 4 a.m. and most of them were home, including myself, to my hotel room at around 5 a.m. So it's been a late start today here in West Palm Beach, which is where Donald Trump still is. He's still in Mar-a-Lago. He had his friends, companions, and very close partners with him last night, and he spoke about them as well, including Elon Musk. And we will be looking at a lot of them that he spoke about, getting key positions in his cabinet. It looks like a great day over here in Florida. We will try speaking to a few people once things start moving here in the city. But last night, certainly, Rajdeep, was historic, a non-consecutive term for a president after over a century. And when the day started, they were all fearful, they were all tense, but it was only a little later when Kamala Harris's campaign manager came and said she's not going to speak tonight and it's going to be tomorrow, that there is celebration all across.
Celebration all across there in Florida, and Trump sure knows how to throw a bit of a party. But Rohit Sharma, it will be back to business. Is Washington coming to terms with what has happened in the last 24 hours? It's not just Kamala Harris losing. The Democrats have lost in the House of Representatives. They've lost ground in the Senate. Is there a sense, Rohit, therefore, that this is a big, big day for the Republicans? How are people seeing it there at Capitol Hill?
Well, it is. The mood in the White House has been described as bleak. So is the campaign of Kamala Harris at this point in time. There is some sense of understanding this morning that America has given a clear mandate to President Trump. And look, Rajdeep, we've been on the ground. We've been talking to a lot of voters. Economy and immigration, I think those are the two topics that people had actually thought about. Clearly, they wanted to support President Trump on. Bill Clinton had said it, it's the economy, stupid. And I think one of the reasons, and I spoke to one Dem operative this morning, and they said the fact is that Kamala Harris could not have said that inflation is an issue. She could not have said immigration was an issue because she's serving with President Biden. These are very important issues in America, and that stung her campaign a lot. She probably wanted to show that she would be a different president, that she would take more measures. But the fact of the matter is that when President Trump was in office, economy was good. People had jobs. He had taken stricter measures on immigration. I think that resonated very well across America. And if you look at even the states he's lost, Rajdeep, even in California, New York, New Jersey, even in Virginia, the margin is less because people have overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump. That obviously is reflective of the fact that he's won almost all swing states and he's leading in some of them. He might come close to 300 electoral college votes, but the mood on the Capitol Hill among Republicans is jubilant. I mean, they're very happy. They're very excited. They're already talking about taking some policy positions. They talk about pushing immigration as one of the first executive orders that he would sign on after he gets inaugurated on January 28th. So a lot going on the Republican side of things. But when you talk to Democrats, they're still trying to come to terms with this massive defeat that they suffered, sending them flashbacks of the 2016 election when Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump.
The economy is stupid is perhaps the words that will once again resonate as they did all those years ago when Bill Clinton defeated George Bush. But Geeta Mohan, you had a long night. Thanks very much for joining us there. And Rohit Sharma, thank you very much also there in Washington, D.C. Let's raise some of the big questions because this is in many ways history that's been made in the United States. What does Donald Trump now do is what we are going to discuss. Does he play the great disruptor? What awaits America and the world under Trump 2.0? What does it really mean for the world, for India? Will Trump trigger a global trade war as some fear? What next for Indo-US ties? Lots of questions to be answered, and we've got lots of guests joining us. Meera Shankar is former Indian ambassador to the United States. Vivek Kaju, former senior diplomat, is joining us. KC Singh, another former diplomat. So three strong diplomatic voices from India and across the world. Catherine Hadda is senior visiting fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. She joins us. Max Abrahams is American political scientist in Boston. Ajay Jain Bhuturia is Deputy National Finance Chair of the Democratic Party. And Sajid Tarar is Republican Party leader and CEO, Center for Social Change, Maryland. Before I come to my Indian guests, I want to go abroad to Washington to get a sense of how people there are viewing it. Catherine, you first. Is America stunned by the scale of the defeat that Kamala Harris has suffered? There was a sense of a dead heat, but Donald Trump has won the popular vote as well, something that he didn't in 2016 when he defeated Hillary Clinton.
Yes, Rajdeep, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure. I don't want to speak for all America because I'm one person and it's very early yet, but I think people are surprised at the size and the definitive nature of Donald Trump's victory today. You're right, the polls showed a much closer race. For various reasons, pollsters have tended to undercount Trump supporters. There are a lot of controversies why that's true. There was some thought, I confess, I was one of these people who thought maybe this time it would be Kamala Harris's supporters who in some places would also be undercounted. That didn't sort of pan out. But there are a lot of surprises that need to be parsed out. One is the gender gap that you all covered just now. He basically... Kamala Harris got fewer women votes than Joe Biden had, and that was not expected.
Let me just put some of those factors out there and then get our guests, both from the Democrats and the Republicans, to respond to that. These are the factors that I believe made a huge difference today. If we can put why Trump won. First, as I keep saying, is the economy stupid? Donald Trump was seen as better at economy management and handling the economy. That was his big trump card, if you want to call it that. High inflation became a key factor, especially in the last few months. The gender gap that was spoken about didn't help Kamala Harris. Men certainly voted in large numbers for Trump, but importantly, Kamala Harris wasn't even able to retain the base vote in the key swing states. That became a major issue compared to Joe Biden. Trump's anti-immigration stance certainly helped him, particularly in the border states. So really, when you look at it, Trump really trumped Kamala from various angles, whether it was economy or immigration. Let's get in the views first of Ajay Jain Bhuturia, your Deputy National Finance Chair of the Democrat. Let me get Sajid Tarar first, Republican Party leader joining me. Sajid Tarar, congratulations, big day for the Republicans, but is this Trump's victory or a victory for the Republican Party?
Matter of fact, it's a victory, but it's a last 4 years of failed policies of Biden, Harris administration. And this is first time in the history. What was the Joe Biden's and Harris administration? It was extension of Obama policies. They were calculated by President Xi, President Putin. So and inflation, you are saying, one of the biggest reason was inflation. 21 million unvetted illegal immigrants, they are here. Last sentence, what Donald Trump said in Michigan, America is occupied. America is occupied. So the thing is this, last 4 years were chaos due to the weak foreign policy, the America-China alliance, the new fronts. We were almost at the verge of Third World War. Thank God the America is normal and the world will become normal today.
You know, you're sort of railing against the Harris-Biden or Biden-Harris administration on immigration. You presumably also are a beneficiary of U.S. welcoming and embracing immigrants from across the world, and yet today you're standing with Donald Trump. Explain that. Explain why. And we've seen that with a lot of Indian Americans, a lot of who've gone this time and voted for Donald Trump. Is it because he was seen to be... Explain this immigration factor to us.
We believe, I am a conservative, I'm a Republican, I'm Trumpster. We believe the people should come from the front door, not from the jumping the walls and coming here without any vetting process. And second thing is this, if somebody does not believe in American values and cannot respect American values, they are not supposed to be here to begin with. The protection of American lives and property is a fundamental responsibility of American president. Matter of fact, another thing I wanted to tell you, Donald Trump is a grandchild of some immigrant himself. His two wives are Russian immigrant. He just became a grandfather of an Arab grandchild. So the thing is this, we cannot be against immigration, but we want legal immigration. We don't want, matter of fact, the issue is this, right now more than 30,000 Chinese, they have come into the US, and we need to know that what is their objectives are.
Okay, I'm going to be joined in a moment by Max Abrams. He's an American political scientist based in Boston. But I want to, before I go to you, Max, also get in a few words from our Indian guests here. K.C. Singh, your first reactions? You're hearing American voices saying the gender gap didn't work, the immigration factor worked in favor of Donald Trump, his tough stand on immigration, and most importantly, the economy. Are you also in any way surprised just by the scale of the victory, or was Kamala Harris carrying too much baggage of the Biden administration?
Well, it seemed that President Biden was carrying the baggage, but she came in very strong. And because the way Trump was behaving, the language he was using, the weave that he practices, stream of consciousness, meandering talk. But I think where we got it wrong is that he had got the pulse of the people. He realized that those two subjects, one was immigration and the second thing was economy. In fact, his advisors were very upset because he would go off those subjects and get very personal and settle scores. But it seems that the basic theme, echoed with the people, and they ignored all the other things. Now, if you say economy has been mishandled by Biden, the question is, it's really COVID mishandled by Trump, which was handed over to Biden. So Biden had to really clean up whatever was left behind on the plate. And then to give a boost to the economy, they infused a lot of cash. And I think that was probably wrong. It didn't go right. And that is what created the inflation. They miscalculated. But what was handed down was really from Trump.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, because in the post-COVID years, the fiscal stimulus that was pushed into the American economy seems to have pushed up inflation, unlike in India, where the Modi government interestingly claims that one of the things they got right post-COVID was that they didn't allow inflation to spiral out of control. That's what the government here claims. But Vivek Kaju, your first reactions, are you surprised or by the fact that Donald Trump has staged what many are calling, certainly J.D. Vance is calling, the greatest political comeback?
This comeback will be part of global political folklore. There's no doubt about it. I think the Republicans have won a comprehensive victory. And Trump has done something marvelous, and he has won the popular vote. That too is remarkable. But America remains divided. It is, and that division runs through the very core of America. Trump has today said he'll be the great healer. He is not the kind of person who can be a healer. He doesn't have it in him. It's not part of his personality. So he will focus on issues that he has mentioned, immigration, etc. But then we must also remember that there is a substantial amount of hypocrisy in America even on illegal immigrants. I put it to my American friends, doesn't their economy depend to a substantial extent on these illegal immigrants? So that is why I'm not sanguine that Trump's great victory today is going to heal the wounds of America, which lie at its very core and which require a different kind of leader.
Let me get Sajid Tarar to respond to what you've said. You heard what Vivek Kaju is saying, that he doubts whether Trump can heal the wounds that America is inflicted with. This is a divided society, and he makes the point that the very people you call illegal immigrants have built America in a way.
That's true, but the thing is this, there must be a vetting process. Now the world has changed since September 11th. You need to know the intentions. Those people are coming in the US. Exactly. Yesterday, Donald Trump, after casting his vote in Palm Beach, Florida, he again addressed that more than 13,000 murderer or criminals from the prison systems of South America, they have entered in the US. And like earlier I mentioned, more than 30,000 Chinese have entered the border from the Mexican side. So we are safety first. The world has changed. What you are talking about 1800th century and 1700th century, the immigrants. I am an immigrant myself, but I came from the front door and I did not come here with the malintentions. So these things Americans need to focus on it.
Ajay Jain Bhuturia is now joining us, Deputy National Finance Chair of the Democratic Party. It's been a bad day for the Democrats, not just the Trump presidency coming back, but also losing out in the House of Representatives and the Senate. Is there going to be any introspection in the Democrats, Mr. Bhuturia? What went wrong? Should Joe Biden have stepped down, as some believe, a year ago, given whoever was going to replace him, whether Kamala Harris or maybe a more middle-of-the-road Democratic figure, at least a year to take on a Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate President-elect Trump. And the American people have decided to hand the charge to him to handle the economy, immigration, crime, and everything else. So that's the choice that America made clearly. Kamala Harris inherited the campaign 117 to 120 days back. And the country got to know her more and get to know her what she stands for. And basically, the people on this team, we did everything we could. But I think America had made a choice and they wanted a change, and we respect that, and the country needs to move forward together.
America wanted a change, and that word change is increasingly, of course, being used across the world. Catherine Hudder, is that how you see it? That this was a vote for change? We're seeing this across in 2024, across the world. Incumbents have lost out. I'm going to give a list in a moment of all the incumbents who've lost out this year. Rishi Sunak was completely blown away in the United Kingdom. And you even see in some smaller countries, incumbents have lost out. Many believe it's because the economy post-COVID has hurt. I want to understand from you, therefore, do you believe also that it was America looking for change, or simply comparing where they were in 2024 with where they were in 2020?
I think it's all those things, to be honest. And for one of the biggest questions this whole election has been who would be seen as the incumbent. I mean, when it was Joe Biden, it was clear he was on a path to lose. And so Kamala Harris, I think she ran a very good campaign, given a very difficult task she was given, which was to prove she wasn't the incumbent, but she couldn't disown the administration she had been in. So the answer came in very resoundingly that the incumbent was seen as this administration and not the Trump administration. I just want to get back a little bit to immigration, just to make one point. There are about, according to the Pew Institute, there were from 2022, there were something like 7.25 lakh illegal Indian immigrants in this country. So this is one of the issues that I think is going to come up between our countries, even though, overall, I think there's bipartisan support for a strong U.S.-India relationship. But we're going to have some bumps in the road on our own relations as well, I believe.
I'm going to come to those issues in a moment again. But Meera Shankar, former Indian ambassador to the United States, also now joins us. Meera Shankar, your first reactions. If I were to be a little provocative and say America was simply not ready for a woman who was of Indian origin, who effectively was not seen, then America is not ready, not just for Kamala Harris, but for a politician like Kamala Harris.
I would agree. Though it's not much spoken about in the analysis and in the listing of issues which mattered with the electorate, there's clearly an undercurrent of both race and gender, which went against Kamala and which she could not have overcome because it's a gut, primitive instinct issue. And that was very much at play. If you look at the voting, white women voted more for Trump than for Kamala, despite the fact that abortion has been an issue. Secondly, white men consolidated overwhelmingly for Trump. And you saw gender at play in the fact that the support that Kamala received from Black men and Hispanic men was less than the support that Biden had received. So clearly, you could see both these factors at play as an undercurrent, though not spoken about publicly. I think that was a handicap that Kamala had from the start. And it seems that the US has not yet reached a place where they could transcend both these factors. They did so with Obama, but I think when two factors come into play, perhaps it proved decisive in making up voters' minds in favor of Trump. You know, the 4 to 5% undecided voters who till the last were saying, we'll make up our minds on the day of voting, we haven't decided yet. Those 4 to 5% swung decisively for Trump. And if you see, his overall majority is about 5%. So all these factors were at play. And of course, some level of dissatisfaction with the economy, which Biden has handled relatively skillfully because he inherited a post-COVID economy. But on the other hand, it hasn't translated into a feel-good factor with US consumers, because initially there were very high levels of inflation, peaking at 9% in 2022. And though inflation has now come down to around 2%, the cumulative impact of those price increases still rankles with consumers when they compare what the price was 5 years ago to what it is today. Then
So it's a complete range of issues, and I think you made a very important point about the inability of Kamala Harris, and it's not entirely her fault that she was unable to transcend certain gender and race divides that perhaps still exist in a sense in America. I want to just shift focus in this second part of the program to Trump and the world. And when I say world, I include India as well. Now, here are some of the fears that people have, or what people believe a Trump presidency could do. It could spark up a trade war with higher tariffs on imports. He's already spoken about it. Tough stand on China could create a potential face-off, and there could be consequences of that for India. Sanctions that could come on Iran, tough sanctions, may leave the Middle East, where the war continues in Gaza and Lebanon, unsettled. Trump may, on the other hand, play a more proactive role in pushing Russia for peace in Ukraine, and that could perhaps work to the world's advantage. There, however, remain uncertainty over climate change agreements. In the past, Trump has refused to sign on to them, including the Paris Agreement. So all of this suggests a mixed picture. KC Singh, what, according to you, should the world fear about Trump, and what should they be hopeful about?
Look, his basic approach is known. We've seen 4 years of Trump that time. He is an isolationist. He even pressed NATO, told them, unless you pay up, I will leave. All kinds of alliances he threatened. And a lot of attempt of Biden in the beginning, when he took over, was to restore those alliances and restore confidence for those countries in America. So today, the most fearful would be, of course, the president of Ukraine. Because when Trump says that war wouldn't have taken place, I'll settle the war. And then in the same breath, he will say, I'm very friendly with Putin. The signal is that he is willing to settle on Putin's terms. And therefore, he may pull back on, and this is an old problem he has with Ukraine. You would remember before his 2016 election, he was forcing, even after that, he was forcing, or rather after, he was forcing Ukraine to give him information on Biden and Biden's son. So he has an old problem with Ukraine. So Ukraine would be worried that he will pull back, that is in keeping with his philosophy of not paying for other people's wars. And at the same time, he is not going to help much with Putin. He's not going to press Putin. The other problem is the Middle East. There's a very happy message which has gone from Netanyahu. In fact, there was one tweet, I don't know whether that's correct or not, that was there an understanding between Netanyahu and Trump that they will not have a ceasefire till the election was over? Because if you remember, it was Trump who had gone to Israel and taken a decision to shift the US embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which had not been done for many decades because the Americans said, you have to first accept peace, settle with the Palestinians. So Trump didn't wait for that. So Netanyahu is thrilled because he knows that Trump will back him fully, much more than even Biden. Biden's, of course, paid the price for it in Michigan and so on and so forth, and for having continued to back Netanyahu, but it'll be even greater. But when it comes to India, I think one of the issues has been mentioned, and that's an important one, of so-called illegal immigrants from India. Now, if he starts detaining people and then deporting them, it's going to create an uproar in India. Imagine hundreds of people or even thousands of people being shipped out. We'll have to establish their identities. They may not have documents. There'll be chaos, and which means they'll be detained for long periods under very difficult conditions.
So yeah, you've given us a global picture. I'm going to come to the Middle East point also later, but you're saying it could be unsettling, uncertain, and Trump is unpredictable. Vivek Kaju, your takeaway, how should the world see this Trump presidency? With hope or with a bit of concern?
I think I agree with Casey on many points, but I'm still not persuaded that Trump 2 will be identical to Trump 1. We don't know simply who would be his foreign policy and security team till now.
No, but what's the big difference? What is the big difference, you think, Vivek Kaju, between Trump 1.0 and Trump 2.0? I know this is only day one, but what's the big difference you're likely to see?
The first is that Europe is extremely anxious about Trump 2. They were anxious about Trump 1, but Trump then settled certain issues and they reached an understanding. At this stage, they really don't know how far he'll go with Russia, and the Ukraine war is at the very core of European security. So that is one aspect of which will impact the transatlantic alliance. And now, nearer home on China, the general feeling is that Trump will be belligerent on China. I'm not so sure, because Trump is inherently unpredictable. He's called the disruptor. I don't know whether Trump will, at this stage, think that it might be better to reach some kind of an accommodation with China. Let us not forget the experience the world had with Trump dealing with North Korea, for example. Despite all the sound and fury, at the end of it, what happened? So the point I'm making is that we've got to be prepared for a great deal of turbulence, even in India. US relations under Trump, if I were there, I would be prepared for turbulence, not only on immigration, but also on trade and commerce. On defense, I'd be a little more certain. But with China, I don't know. With Quad, will he pay the same attention as Biden did? Again, there's a question mark.
Okay.
So let us be prepared for turbulence and questions to which we will really have to wait for answers.
Okay, turbulence, uncertainty, words being used, and they've often been used with Trump presidency. I just want to go back to a guest who's just joined us, Max Abrahams, American political scientist, joins us. Max, we've been looking at, in the first part of the show, various factors responsible for the Trump win. And one of them that we didn't perhaps reflect on was the belief that perhaps the political strongman, the fact that here was a strong, openly right-wing, some would call him a right-wing populist. Is that the kind of politics that America has embraced, or was it the economy, in your view, that made the difference? Is it that this is a vote against certain left liberal politics, the so-called left liberal Washington elite?
I disagree with a lot of what I've just heard. You know, everybody's talking about how turbulent it's going to be under a Trump administration. It was actually a lot less, it was less turbulent the last time he was president. I can't believe that we're discussing turbulence with respect to immigration when things within immigration were so much more turbulent under Biden and Harris. There was something like 15 million illegal immigrants coming from over the southern border, some of whom, committed really atrocious attacks, including just this past week. The world in many ways was much quieter, right? So under Biden, Russia steamrolled through a European country. That didn't happen under Trump. The Middle East is much worse now. We're poised to have a major war. Iran is going to attack Israel again. Israel is going to respond. Iranian proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, they became brazen in an unprecedented way only after Trump left. With respect to the allegation that Trump is some sort of a fascist, again, that's deeply ironic. There are many different definitions of fascism, but a very standard element of the definition is the suppression of opposition. And under Trump, we saw the exact opposite, right? When Trump gave a press conference, the media was talking so loud over him. Many people in the media who had access to him were actually from the Obama administration. These are Democrat media operatives, and they criticized him and talked over him for
But we also
4 years
saw
straight.
but we also saw January 5th, right? So a lot of Trump's first term was shadowed by what happened on January 5th, the president refusing to leave even after he'd lost, not willing to accept defeat. So many fear that here is a president who perhaps now in office and knows this is his second and final term will perhaps therefore be even more the political strongman.
The American electoral system lacks integrity, if you will. And it is true that in 2020, there was some very unfortunate election denialism that came out of the GOP. I do want to remind viewers that in 2016, in the previous election, there was also a substantial amount of election denial where Hillary Clinton for 4 years said that Donald Trump had stolen the election, that he was illegitimate. The so-called resistance formed in the American polity in order to reverse the outcome of the 2016 election. And that explains the impeachments, the Russian collusion hoax. So you're right, there is a sad history of election denial from the GOP, but make no mistake, it is also quite strong on the Democratic side.
Okay.
I do not think that Trump will be a so-called strongman because there will be a diffusion of power. Almost all of the main institutions in the United States are anti-Trump. So that includes the media, the education system, the intel agencies. All of them work against Trump. And for that reason, I'm not at all worried about fascism on the right. It's much more likely to happen on the left if Kamala Harris had won.
Interesting, provocative. Does anyone want to jump in? Here is Max Abraham saying, we are sort of misreading Trump, suggesting here is someone who's going to lead to greater, the world will be less turbulent, is what Max suggests. Anyone want, Meera Shankar, you want to jump in on that?
I'm not jumping in on that, but I want to highlight a point, and that is that Trump has won decisively, not just the presidency, but the Republican Party is also poised to take the Senate and poised to take the House of Representatives. Now that, along with a conservative Supreme Court, means that the institutional checks and balances which curb the power of the executive will be a lot weaker, and therefore Trump will have much fuller play, in a sense, in pushing his policies for good or for ill.
No, but will there be more turbulence, Meera Shankar, will there be more turbulence within America and not outside necessarily? Look, America may be divided and polarized. The rest of the world, Max is suggesting a Trump presidency may not. The Biden years have seen wars where Putin invades Ukraine. We've seen where Israel carries on its Gaza war. So why suggest that a Trump presidency would lead to a more turbulent world?
To give Trump his due, during his first presidency, he did not get involved in any new military entanglement.
Right.
When he was pushed to take military action in Syria, he had recourse to a strike, and that was it. Similarly, with Iran, when he was being pushed to take military action, he overruled his advisors overnight and turned it down, and instead settled for the assassination of Soleimani. So to give Trump his due, he set in motion also the process for withdrawal of US troops from Afghanistan, helter-skelter, not necessarily something which India, where India had been duly consulted, but he's the one who did the deal with the Taliban and cut that Gordian knot.
Okay,
so
to
give him his due, he is unlikely to get involved in any major military entanglement.
But the difference is, I take your point, ma'am. But the difference is that
there will be trade friction because he is protectionist. He's threatening tariffs across the board on all imports from the US, much higher tariffs of 40 to 50% on Chinese imports. If he implements it, then there could be tit-for-tat action by other countries. So that is going to weigh on global trade and could be a source of friction.
Let me, ma'am, I'm going to stop you on that because, I think I just want to get the American viewpoint on that. Trump going to be more protectionist? Let me get my Republican guest at the moment to tell us. Get a Republican Party perspective. Sajid, do you believe that a Trump administration will be more protectionist? He's already talking about tariff barriers against China.
But I definitely believe the tariffs and the trade friction is better than the wars. And the thing is, Donald Trump...
What war is he going to stop? Is Donald Trump going to be able to tell Israel to stop the war in Gaza? Is he going to be able to tell Putin to stop the war in Ukraine?
Of course, he's going to try to resolve it because $295 billion of my blood and sweat has gone to Ukraine, and that is not an American war, it's a European war. So, and plus, at the same time, Donald Trump achieved his targets through the tariffs and sanctions and embargoes. They are still better than the killing people in 21st century and sending American troops overseas. So I believe Donald Trump is good for the world, is definitely good. It will be good for the US. And I definitely agree dealing with China with the tariffs. I definitely believe it may have some ripple effect on inflation and supply chain, but it's still better than getting into the conflicts and going into the Cold War and other stuff. Like I told you.
But can K.C. Singh really be someone who can get to end the two big wars taking place across the world, one in Europe, one in the Middle East? Do you really see that happening? Is that a priority at all? Or is Trump going to be, his priorities will be at home first to settle what he claims is rebuild the economy?
No, it's possible Netanyahu may play along with him because he's killed most of the leadership of Hamas. He's now just basically bombing those cities into rubble. He's also killed the leadership of the Hezbollah. So he's ready to settle, but I think what he would do is he would do it on his terms. And now there is time available to settle. And now, as far as Ukraine is concerned, it's not a question of simply accepting what Putin wants, because the European countries are not happy with that. If you weaken NATO and you give an impression to Putin that he can move against another smaller former Warsaw Pact country, then that creates instability in Europe. Lack of confidence spreads all along the Russian frontier. And that's the game that Putin is playing. So Ukraine is only first of the big pieces that he's trying to move.
Mr. Kaju, your final word on that. Do you see Trump actively sort of looking to end wars?
I think Trump will try to pressure Putin, but I doubt if he'll succeed. I mean, this claim that he made that had I been there, Putin wouldn't have dared attack Ukraine, or that Hamas wouldn't have dared to do October 7th,
right.
I think was pure rhetoric. I don't take it seriously.
Okay.
But his main focus initially would be domestic. It will be on immigration, and that would lead to an enormous amount of turbulence. Whatever my American friend is saying,
right.
Let them try to stop illegal immigration or throw illegal immigrants out, and you'll see the impact on the American economy of the kind that they haven't faced before.
Okay, let me get 30 seconds each from my final two American guests on that. Come a new morning. Is this a new... Catherine Hadda, how is America going to change for you under Trump? 30 seconds.
Okay, we're a deeply divided country. I mean, it's just obvious. We have two different realities. You know, when I was listening to Mr. Abrams, he was talking about two realities. I would agree on that point, even though I disagreed with almost everything he said. So I think we remain a distracted, divided country. And to that extent, I think people are going to have to wait until we sort ourselves out.
Let me ask that same question to Max. How is America going to change under a Trump presidency, Trump 2.0?
I think it'll change substantially. On immigration, we won't see an unprecedented influx of illegals coming in. It's actually not that difficult to create a border. The U.S. certainly has the resources to do it. It would have gotten done last time if not for Democrat opposition.
Right.
And I predict that will go fine. There'll be other big changes too. For example, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a very controversial issue in the United States. Kamala Harris is an enormous proponent of pushing it. Trump is not. I think that we'll see diminished DEI within higher education, which I think will improve the quality. I think that obviously the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will be very different. Trump will come out very clearly against Hamas. Trump has also said that he would be more willing to allow Israel to strike Iranian nuclear facilities. I also actually think that
I've completely run out of time, but what you're suggesting is the world will not be the same again. We didn't have enough time to look at climate change and what Trump will do to climate change agreements. That will be another key area to look at very carefully. But I appreciate my guests giving us such a variety of opinion from India and across the United States of America. It has, whichever way you look at it, Trump has created a slice of history. Think about it. It was Grover Cleveland way back in 1892 who became the first president to win after having lost as an incumbent president 4 years ago. That's a very, very long time ago. It is finally Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar. On that note, thanks to my guests, I want to leave you though by saying that come tomorrow, we're heading off to our big next election. This is the big 2024 election year, and the next big election takes place in my home state of Maharashtra, and I will be crisscrossing the state on a chopper and my car. Mazha, Maharashtra, or Maharashtra Mazha is where I will be heading for the next 10 days. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Good night, Shubhratri. Look at what we're going to do over the next 10 days. Bye. Maharashtra Mazha with Rajdeep Sardesai. Me Rajdeep Sardesai, ye toy. I'm coming.